Hello to all of you working on the front lines, supporting women and men facing an unintended pregnancy, and to those of you who work tirelessly behind the scenes to support your team at a pregnancy center.
Welcome to the Power of Four Simple Questions.
Brought to you by ClearLink Training and Coaching. In this training, we'll explore a simple yet transformative approach to connecting with callers and those that you interact with online. An approach that invites relationship, trust, and God's peace, even when conversations begin with some uncertainty. Whether you're answering the phones daily, interacting online, or leading a team, these four simple questions will help you listen more deeply, respond with greater compassion, and guide each caller toward hope and next practical steps. This training is not about scripts or even sales. It's about being the hands and feet of Jesus, building genuine connection, meeting people where they are, and creating space for God to work in their hearts. My name is Marlene Keiko, and I bring over 20 years of frontline experience, including 16 years as the Client Services Director at First Place Options, a pregnancy center in Ottawa, Canada. After my time at the center, I co-founded ClearLink Training and Coaching with my colleague and friend, Terry Mazik. Together, we provide practical tools and real-world support to people just like you. People serving with compassion and hope and wisdom and courage on the front lines every single day. I'm especially grateful to the Lord for the chance to share this very powerful training with you. Something, honestly, I wish I had learned much earlier in my career. Something He has been faithful to teach me over my time serving at the pregnancy center. This training will help you make a simple shift that increases engagement with every person you're interacting with online or calls on the phone. One that changed everything for me. From experience, I know you've had your fair share of challenging calls too. I also know how easy it is to assume that some of these callers will eventually turn into a client relationship. But what if I told you that you could really engage every caller and that many of them can become clients if you know the right approach? I know, I understand your skepticism. It almost sounds too good to be true, but it isn't. I'm thrilled to share the power of these four simple questions. These questions are transformative. They are tools that God can use, like keys, to unlock hearts, open the doors for trust, and create space for Him to speak peace and wisdom into someone's life. I'm going to walk you through each question, why it matters, when to ask it, and how to listen for the answers that can tell you exactly what your caller needs next, both practically and spiritually. So let's start with the first question. This training is going to make a huge difference, and you want to pay close attention. Are you ready? Like you, I've experienced that deep sense of satisfaction that comes from helping women facing an unintended pregnancy. I don't know about you, but I vividly remember those golden moments when I sensed a turning point in a conversation. The moment the client begins to trust me and you, when she opens up and shares her deep concerns. Those moments of real, meaningful engagement. I just love them, and I believe I will always cherish them. With training, time, and experience, I bet most of you feel pretty confident engaging each client one on one. But I wonder, Do you have the same level of confidence when speaking with them online or on the phone? Especially with someone who calls wanting to book an abortion appointment? I can almost hear your heads nodding because mine is too. Oh, have you ever thought about the things you used to say to them? Oh, I have to remind myself that I only knew what I knew at the time, and I have to give myself some grace. I clearly remember the first time I received a call from someone wanting to book an abortion appointment. I literally froze. I remember saying, we don't refer or recommend for abortion. And needless to say, the call ended very quickly. And if that's where you are today, I hear you. I also hear your frustration in those kinds of interactions. But I don't want to leave you there because there's so much more that we can offer. Over the years, I've had hundreds of calls, and through God's wisdom and discernment, I began to realize that closing down the conversation wasn't exactly in the caller's best interest. So I started asking questions. One, two, three, and eventually I found myself in 20-minute conversations and sometimes leading to multiple calls over time. These calls weren't just with expectant women, they were with their partners, friends, and even parents. Because of those conversations, women booking appointments to meet with an options counselor. I came to see, as they did too, that these conversations were helping them understand they didn't actually want to have an abortion. They just didn't want to be pregnant. And that realization was eye opening for me and for them as well. Let's be honest. For many of us, the idea of engaging with someone who is either abortion minded or decided, online or on the phone, would make any of us feel nervous. It feels risky to put yourself out there with the chance of being shut down. If it helps, I always try to first imagine how hard it was for this woman to make the decision to reach out to us in the first place. They needed to talk to someone, and so I decided I could be there for them. Maybe you are feeling that you don't always know what to say. And if I'm being honest, I used to believe that I had to convince women somehow to book an options counseling appointment. Isn't that crazy? That's so much pressure. I felt it, and I bet and at some point, you have felt the same way. I had to learn through this process to pare down my questions, to help her do more of a self assessment, because really the heart of the conversation happens face to face. And I wanted to make sure that I had every opportunity to do that with those who needed our support. Hopefully, as I go through my tips with you, these four powerful yet simple questions, you will also feel more equipped knowing what questions to ask, and you will then increase in your confidence in those interactions. Not all of us feel this way. However, some of us feel this heavy weight of responsibility to get it right, whether it is in person, online, or on the phone. Thankfully, though, that these four simple questions that we have designed are simple, short, and easy to apply, and they are very effective. Okay, without further delay, I'm going to reveal the exact process I have personally used, and I pray it will also help you to increase your engagement with every caller and in every interaction that you have online, and hopefully be able to turn many more of these callers into clients at your center. And as I said, it works every single time. So let's. The first step is to shift how you see the opportunities when someone calls or messages you. This change will affect how your client responds and can reduce any kind of hangups or pressure to overload the callers. We have chances to empathize, ask questions, clarify, and reflect, guiding callers from a place of unthink to a deeper sense of empowerment. It all begins with empathy and one simple question. Most women facing an unintended pregnancy, as you know, rarely tell anyone else that they may be pregnant or unsure about their decision. An empathetic response is always the right first step. Sometimes I would reflect back what I heard and say how sorry I was that they were going through such a difficult time. There's a saying that says people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. You may be the very first person they've told about this pregnancy. Then I'd ask, would it be okay if I asked you 4 simple questions? Every single person I asked said yes. These questions help callers self assess their need for support. So here's the first question. This is what I would ask. Do you feel like you have enough information about your options to make a decision? Now, this question warrants a yes or no response, right? But it also opens the door for more conversation. It helps me understand what they know, where they got their information, and what matters most to them. It also lets me correct any kind of misperceptions that they may have and gives them a space to say out loud what they may be thinking for the very first time. This helps them slow down and begin to process their feelings with someone who isn't part of their personal situation. So let's look at question number 2. The second question I would ask is, do you feel you have weighed the benefits and risks, which also could be worded the pros and cons, of your options, and have you assessed what you value most? Again, I was looking for a simple yes or no response to this question. However, it almost always caused the caller to ask me, what did I mean by that question? Which always allowed for deeper conversation. Let's look at the value of asking the caller whether or not they have weighed the pros and cons of their decision. Their answers allowed me to understand what they have really processed, where they have gathered their information from, and it also allowed me to have insight into what they value most and what they were trying to avoid. It allowed the caller to process what meant the most to them. As you know from your experiences with women facing unintended pregnancies, there's a lot of pressure they are facing, especially the pressure of time. The limitation of time prevents the creation of space to really dig deep and discover what they value most. The question always allows me the opportunity to explore how they arrived at their decision. I would ask them to paint a picture of what that process was like for them. Another important aspect of this question was how it revealed to me if the woman was still in a place of conflict in her decision, and if further support was needed to help clarify their values. So let's look at question number 3. The third question I would ask was whether they have enough support to make a decision. Once again, I was looking for either a yes or no answer to this question. I was also wanting to assess if they were still needing to talk to someone. Remember that most people don't talk to anyone about their pregnancy until they've actually made a decision. What is the value of even asking this question? Asking the caller if they feel they have enough support to make a decision helped me understand what their relationship status looked like. It also helped me discover if they were being pressured, maybe to have an abortion. And this is key. Sometimes the pressure like this can outweigh the process. And it is important to listen for that in all the conversations that we have. This question also provided insight for me who they may have told about the pregnancy or the decision, and if they had a safe place to share what they had been feeling, whether they felt pressure or any kind of conflict about their decision. And this is the perfect time for them to assess if they need to talk to someone about how they're feeling and what they are experiencing. So, moving on to the fourth and final question, I would ask, do you feel certain about your decision? And again, beyond an either yes or no response, I was asking if she in any way was ambivalent or unsure about the decision. I would always say that although you may not be 100% certain about your decision, I did say she needed to assess if there was a high enough level of confidence she had in regards to her decision. Looking again at the value of asking this question allowed me to have insight into what was contributing perhaps to her indecision. It allowed her space to share out loud that maybe she wasn't as confident as she really wanted to be. If she said she was 60% confident in her decision, but then said she would really prefer to be more like 90% sure. And this question helped her discover why she wasn't where she wanted to be in terms of certainty. This question allowed her to evaluate what was required to increase the level of certainty. Well, we have now explored all four questions. As you know, you've explored through this training, each one is unique and invites her to explore four different aspects of her decision making process, helping her to unthink towards a place of empowerment. I would like to wrap up after asking the four questions by asking the client to pause and reflect on whether she said no to any of the questions. If she did answer no to any of the questions, I would say that in our experience meant that she could benefit from talking to one of our options counselors. I would follow that up by saying, this is why we exist, to support someone just like you who is faced with some uncertainty about their decision. There could be one or two areas highlighted in the conversation, or maybe many elements that needed further discussion. Sometimes that meant booking an appointment right away, maybe for an options counseling or a pregnancy support appointment. Or sometimes that meant the first step was needed for her to book an appointment with her doctor or take a home pregnancy test, followed by an options counseling appointment at a future date. Either way, this became such a crucial service that we began to see this type of client engagement differently. A vital service, an extension of what we did in the counseling room. The value was huge, even if we never met them face to face. From this point forward, we see these engagements as critical pieces of what we could offer to anyone in the midst of a crisis due to an unintentional. So let's do a little recap. Here are the four questions. Do you feel like you have enough information about your options to make a decision? Do you feel you have weighed the benefits and risks of each option? Do you feel you have enough support to make a decision? And do you feel certain? Now I'm going to leave you with a story. One day, and now this is many years ago, I received a call from a man named Greg. Greg called asking for advice and on how he could convince his common law partner, Eva, to have an abortion. Now, after I was able to share with Greg that we were not able to provide him that kind of advice that he was looking for, we began to engage in the four simple questions, just like I would with any other client. After walking through each question, he discovered that Eva wasn't really certain about her decision to have an abortion. And he also realized he was putting a lot of pressure on her. From this discussion, Greg thought they both could benefit from talking to an options counselor. I had the privilege of being their options counselor. And after two meetings, they left with a lot to think about. During the counseling session, Greg was initially very frustrated, but once Eva was able to openly share that although the timing of the pregnancy was not ideal, this was something that was very important, deeply valued to her. When Greg heard what Eva shared, he realized continuing the pregnancy was something very meaningful to Eva, helping him to hear her and to understand that any pressure that he was going to put on her to have an abortion would cause her to compromise her values. So instead, he decided to support her. And then, out of the blue, 7 months later, I had not heard from either of them over a long period of time. Greg called to book an appointment to come back and see us because he wanted to introduce me to his brand new baby girl and to thank us for creating space for them to work through their decision. Now, we rejoice and we thank God for that. But I also want to say thank you to you for taking the next step in your journeys to sharpen your skills in order to engage callers using these four simple questions. You never know whose life. Wrapping up, because you joined us for this ClearLink training and coaching today, please don't forget to come by our booth to get your four simple questions card. One for every member of your team, maybe two, which you now can keep close to you, whether you're talking on the phone or interacting online, and you can start implementing it today. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us through ClearLink Training and Coaching and stay in touch with us by email or liking us on any of our social media pages. So, you may be wondering, what are our next steps? Well, if you found the four simple questions training to be helpful in transforming your calls or online interactions into these powerful, empowering journeys for your clients, we have your next steps ready for you. During this conference, we are launching our Unthink Journey training. Now, this Unthink Journey equips you, the options counselor and coach, to confidently support women facing unintended pregnancies one-on-one. Through decision aid training, this course emphasizes a non-directive, compassionate, and empowering conversations, helping clients find clarity without judgment or pressure. Your purchase will also give you access to the first unintended pregnancy decision aid in the world. And this is a perfect tool to guide your clients through in the counseling room. And you can also use it remotely with your clients too. You and your center are not going to want to miss this opportunity to take advantage of our one-time conference special. Please come by and see us at our booth to see how you can begin this powerful and transformative training with your whole team. We are so excited to share this with you. We are partnering together. Remember, with every purchase of the Unthink Journey training, your center is going to have double impact. You're going to benefit from this powerful training but also you're going to be providing the same life-changing, free of charge training to women in Southern Africa through Umoja Project. We are linking arms and partnering together. This is such a unique opportunity. Well, it's been so wonderful spending this time with you. Until next time, stay safe, stay healthy, and keep informed. Bye, everyone.